Good evening, YouTube. Do apologise, I'm just finishing crunching some food. What a naughty girl. What a naughty girl. Good evening, YouTube. Oh, this light's so bright. Let's see if I can just adjust it a little. Yeah. That's the way it is. It is bright. So please tell me this evening if my audio is not so good, because I have loose hair. There is a possibility it flips and flaps over the microphone. I've put it in the middle, and hopefully that will sort out the problem. Yes. Okay, so los geht's mit Namen. Let's go. So if this is the first time you've ever been to my talk, then I would just give you a quick know-how of how it all works. So you ask me questions through Skype. My Skype address is lisacairns12. You can write the questions, or you can put call me, and I will call you when I'm ready. So put call me. So if I do call you and you don't pick up, don't call me back. Sometimes it sends a message if you click on something, and it's hard when I'm doing it all myself not to do that. So don't call me back, just wait for me to call you back again, because often we're out of time, and so by the time you realise I've moved on to someone else. You need a good internet connection with a headset and a microphone. Yes. And just put call me with nothing else after. If I do have problems with my microphone, if you could just write it in Skype or in the YouTube chat. But Skype is the preferred way of being. Yeah, das ist all. Das ist alles. So next we will do the meditation. Which is not really meditation. Meditation normally is considered a goal to achieve enlightenment, and that isn't what I'm recommending. Enlightenment is this moment, so it's not something that can be achieved. You can't rack up like 5,000 hours of meditation and then become enlightened, because who would become enlightened is what you are. So the meditation can help settle down the person, but that doesn't mean enlightenment or not enlightenment. It's really, as it's called, like settling down the person. My feeling is, but I can't say this is true or not, is that it's impossible to hear non-duality when the person is really loud. So when someone is really deeply in suffering, if you say to them, this is it, this is the piece of freedom, they're like, you what, man? You what? You can go and shove that up the place where the sun don't shine. Yeah, well, this is it. This is freedom. How dare you say that to me? Go and shove it, you know. So obviously it's better to calm down the person before you judge when people say, this is it, baby. Or before you react to that. Because when the person is suffering, that's like must seem incredibly patronizing and frustrating, and I can really empathize with that. Yeah, so meditation and a lot of the therapeutic practices I recommend are about settling down the person. But really, the non-dual message is about there is no person. The person you believe yourself to be isn't truth. There is an appearance of someone, but there isn't actually somebody in here at the center of everything. Isn't that fantastic? Isn't that fantastic news? Life is happening. It's never been your responsibility. Yeah. Okay, but we shall still start with meditation because I like sitting in silence, so I just call it meditation to make it feel like we're actually doing something and not just sitting here like lemons. I'm obviously being silly. But I like sitting in silence with you all. It feels really nice and grounding. Just like peanut butter on toast tastes fantastic. Other people might then conclude that means something, but actually it doesn't. It's just as it is. We just sit together in silence. And then we can conclude all different types of stories if we want, or we can just sit in silence. Okay, so I'm just going to hit my big invisible gong with my dong. So here I go. The gong is going to be donged. And then we sit for 15, 20 minutes. Okay, that is the end of meditation. Yeah. So we begin the talk. Sorry, I look like I'm doing something else at the same time, which I am. I just realised I forgot to shut all my extra programs. It spazzes the computer out. Oh, Beth says that was lovely. Good evening, Lisa. That was lovely. Oh, nice. Yeah, I enjoy that too. Okay, so just let me look at the title of the song. Oh, the song, the talk. Just let me put my light back on. Who are you without a narrative without the narrative you tell yourself? Beautiful. Beautiful. Who are you without the narrative that you tell yourself? That is so nice. That is the question here. Who are you without the narrative that you tell yourself? So, when I lived in Australia, I learned a little bit about the Aboriginal culture, but very little. I really don't know much about it. But one thing that I learned, and I think that it was made into a film as well, was that a lot of the Aborigine communities, the way they used to navigate their environment was through songs. So they would sing in order to be able to navigate, because you know that a lot of Aborigines were nomads, so they travelled. I think it tended to be around a similar area, but with the seasons and with when the food was there. Yeah. And I thought, that is so freaking beautiful that you sing your environment. So their maps were in song. I mean, isn't that so beautiful? Imagine how your environment would look if you knew it through songs. So not through stories, but through songs. So what is very strong in European culture, and in all cultures now, but is that we were storytellers. And we told the narrative of our environment and ourselves through stories. So rather than songs in the Australian Aborigine community, we narrated stories to each other, which is also equally beautiful. So we passed on information through stories, and then eventually we began to write it in books, and then we had the definition of story like a novel, and then we wouldn't call science a story, but in a way we are communicating science through storytelling. Like we're teaching it through storytelling. Like it is in a way a story. Like everything that we interact with is a story. Like I sit on a chair and I enjoy the comfort of the chair. This is a story that we're telling. And we're trained in particular stories and in particular narratives. So in novels and TV, a very popular story is the story of the hero. And that is somebody that's fighting for good over bad. And we get all different versions of the hero story. You can get the coming of age hero story, you can get the underdog hero, all different types. And we resonate with that. And in a way, we see our environment like that. It all becomes a narrative. So beautiful. So beautiful. But what happened to us, and it seems like all of humanity, I don't know if Australian Aborigines, before they came in contact with Europeans, if they did actually, or the settlers, I don't know what you call them, if they did actually have a sense of self. Sometimes when you learn about the communities, I'm not sure if they had evolved that yet. They had language, but I've heard that in a lot of the language, there wasn't such an emphasis on I and me and you. Yeah. So I'm not sure if that was evolved. But all I can speak about really is European culture, is this sense of self evolved. That is not, I just don't know other cultures and how it evolved. This sense of self arose. The idea that I am in the body and you are in another body. And this is a narrative that has evolved with us and a belief system that we believe in. So most people, maybe even at this talk now, but maybe not, believe in this narrative of me and you, that there is actually a you there and a me here. So it might not feel like it's a narrative, but it is a narrative. Isn't that so interesting? So we, or you, are narrating a story of you, and then it feels like you are sitting there, that you are someone that's sitting there. Whereas that's not actually what's happening. That's the narration that you're telling yourself. I am sitting here. I came from the kitchen. I like or dislike this talk. I'm comfortable. I am 32 years old. I like nature. All these narratives. All these narratives. I am happy. I am sad. I am right. I am wrong. She is right. She is wrong. We like. We don't like. And their belief system, they're not true. And then they create a particular experience. And the experience is one of contraction. Who is this I that's sitting there? You could say there is an appearance of I. So some people speak about the I dropping away, but that doesn't really make a sense to me, because there's always going to be the appearance of an I, but it's not truth, and it's not the experiencer. That I is thoughts and energies arising, but it doesn't equal a separate entity that's watching through these eyes. What is watching through these eyes, what is watching through these senses is beyond. It's undescribable. It's magical. You're also narrating a story of yourself and your environment. And it's happening so quickly. Your body is responding to things and giving all types of feelings and emotions. And that's not suffering to me. It might be to someone else. What the suffering is the attachment to that, the belief that it's true. It's not true. And ultimately, nothing matters. This is so difficult for humans because most people are so attached to belief systems, maybe even more so than objects and other people. I just think of all the thoughts that you get agitated by, like political. For many years in England, Brexit created a lot of agitation amongst people. The idea of doing it or not doing it. It should be done or not be done. At the moment, there's something happening in the world. I got an email from someone the other day asking me what the C and the V is. And obviously I can't say it. But also, if you are listening, the person that asked that question, just be conscious that it most probably takes me about a month to 6 weeks to actually answer my emails. I see them come in, and sometimes I read them, but I don't reply to them for a while. I have lists of jobs to do, and that one is very low. So sorry about that if you're listening. But just think about what's going on in the world at the moment. There's something that begins with a C and something that begins with a V that everybody's talking about. And just think about your attachments to sides in that and what you think is right or wrong. See and notice how that affects your body when you come across someone with the opposing idea. And then the attachment to that idea. I am right. It's not necessarily the attachments that's the problem, it's this, it becomes part of you. It is attachment, like I suppose it is attachment to ideas that make you. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, I suppose, like, we can have things that we prefer and not prefer, but then it's like this holding on to it, this I am right. And then it becomes part of you. It actually becomes part of your ego defense strategy. And it's like fighting for land, but it's an idea. So in the past, where we used to fight for land and we used to fight for property, now it's often that we fight for ideas. My idea is right, your idea is wrong. And it really affects people. They really take it personally. Like it's about them. And it means something about them. Whereas it really doesn't matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if you're attached to it or not. But if you're attached to it and making it part of you, then there will be what I define as suffering arise. Like in the end, no matter what the subject, we can't see God's perspective. We can't see the bird's eye view of life, of what's happening. It's so complex and interconnected that it's impossible to peel out what's right and what's wrong. Like, say, if we took something that I disagree with. Like if we took animal testing, that's a subject I feel it's really not right for us to do, to test on animals. But most things that we have is tested on animals, most probably. I don't really know. I know that all our medicine is, it has to be approved. But even like the colours in our clothes most probably are tested on animal, or cleaning products, like the glue that glues things together. Maybe even like this candle that I'm looking at, maybe that's been tested on animals. Like a lot of products are most probably tested on animals. I don't know the extent of it. But yeah, just even this, I have a squirty thing that sprays water onto the plants. I mean, I'm sure there's some element of that was most probably tested on animals. And to me, that's a dark thing that we do. And I feel like one day we'll realise that it's wrong to do that to animals. But even with that, I can see that I can't see the bigger picture of life. Like, if we eventually get ourselves to a place where we can grow cells, which I think we can do, but like grow cells so they grow into animal parts or human parts, this could lead to something quite miraculous. This could, depends whose hands it gets into, But this could lead to like a really different human species. And I can see that it could also lead to something really dark as well. So we've got that argument. And then also I can see, that's not me saying that I agree with it. I would be on the side of not testing on animals, but I can see that through our experimentation with nature, like there's things that we could do which may be really beautiful and really creative and really amazing. Then the next part that we've got, which I can also see, is there isn't actually any animal there that suffers. Like the animal isn't alive. That's really full on, this part. What is looking through is consciousness, and there is no animal that suffers it. The body has pain, so the body creates pain, and then consciousness is watching that, so there is a consciousness which is watching it. But the consciousness is pure, is clean, it doesn't suffer. So the actual essence of the animal isn't actually suffering, even though the body is in pain. So I can also see, and there's also a deep knowing, that there is no animals suffering in animal testing. I still, though, feel and support lots of animal charities against animal testing. Yeah. But that's really miraculous. And then also, right here, right now, there is no suffering of anything. There is only this moment, and the animals suffering and the testing on animals do not exist. Yet still, this body will participate in actions against animal testing. Yeah. Yeah, baby, yeah. Okay, maybe that's enough now. So, yeah, if you have any questions, then you can ask the questions on my Skype channel, which is Lisa Cairns 12. Yeah. And if you want to call in, please call me. Calls get priority. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Nick. Hey, Thomas. Hey, Dennis. Nice to hear from you, Dennis. It's been a long time, eh? Yeah, Sunday the 8th of August. You've been on holiday. Lisa, dear friends, this is not a story. This is a blast of love and light for such a beautiful opening to your live today. Your friend in Kentucky, Dennis. Oh, so beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Isabel, dear Lisa, I love you, sweetheart. You're the love of light. Oh, I love you, Isabel. Okay, there's no questions. I'll go to YouTube, but if you could write them in Skype, that would be fantastic. Okay, there's not even any questions on YouTube. Wow. Maybe it's because I've got the block thing on my channel active on my Skype. Could you speak about the blue light that appears when your eyes are closed? I don't know. My eyes are closed, so I don't know about that. Ginger Bernie. Hi Lisa, what is the relationship between knowing and concentration states? I don't know what you mean by concentration states, but I can talk a little bit about knowing and not knowing. So you know there's this famous saying, to think I am, therefore I think. Oh, I can't remember the saying now. Forget that. But when I was younger, before I had awakenings, I thought I knew, after I'd worked out that I thought. So originally I didn't realize I was thinking. So when I was angry at someone, and when I had thoughts about them, like you're a bastard or you're bad, I didn't know that that was thoughts. I thought that was the way it was. I know that sounds really weird, but I thought that's the way, that's what was happening. And I think that's the same for a lot of people. I don't think I'm weird, but I think that we in spirituality or into this subject forget that we believe our thoughts are the way things are. But even now, sometimes, like, I have a feeling maybe, and for a moment there's a feeling towards something, and then a belief that it's true. It's not even a belief. It's not like I'm sitting there and thinking that's true. It just, the feeling colours something. So I used to believe that my thoughts were true, and I didn't even really know I was thinking. Then when I got into the subject, I began to realise that I was having thoughts and feelings, and they were colouring my experience. And then I began to kind of feel that if I wasn't thinking, then I couldn't really experience. So this is before I had awakenings. So I kind of felt like thinking and consciousness were one and the same thing. So to be conscious of something required me also to be thinking about it. So I thought, like, if I wasn't recording in thoughts that there was a flaw, I didn't know. I thought that was kind of not possible. I felt like my thoughts were narrating, and that narration was also making me conscious of something. And I didn't really know it was possible to be alive and to be conscious and not have any thoughts or narrations about situations. So kind of my mind muddled up narrating and consciousness. And maybe a lot of people do that, but I've forgotten now. So I suppose it's like me being conscious of the world. And until I had these shifts, I didn't really realize that there is this consciousness which is looking at everything always, and it doesn't know anything intellectually. It doesn't know that the floor is a floor, or that the ceiling is a ceiling, or the computer is a computer, or the seat is a seat, or this is good, or this is bad, or this is right, or this is wrong. It's experiencing, and it has no sense at all. No knowing, no intellectual knowing. It didn't comprehend things, it just watched things. And you can have these like samadhi states where you know nothing. So there is just watching, but you have no sense of yourself watching and no sense of the world. But yeah, there's watching happening. But you can't function like that because you're like an absolute bozo. You become, I suppose, in some way like an animal that doesn't have complex thinking. And these are like awakening experiences and samadhis. And it's love. It feels like absolute love. So when that happens, it's like deep relaxation and deep, deep love. And that is there in every experience, but there needs to also be an appearance of a person. Otherwise you can't think to function. You can't think, oh, here is my computer. It's not that thinking is creating functioning, but you need some form of complex thinking in order to function in this society. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to open your computer and do complex things. So knowing is completely mind-based. Your essence, what is here with you all the time, is complete not knowing, but yet it is conscious of everything. So you could say it's knowing as in it's conscious, it's perceiving, but it knows nothing. Which is really beautiful. And as there's a peeling away of you, the illusory you, and all these attachments to ideas, beliefs, things, names, experiences, there is something else that is seen, but it's not by anyone, it just reveals itself. It's no longer hidden. That who you are is this. Nice. Okay, let me take another question. So Hans, Lisa, call me Lisa. Then never mind. Call me. Never mind. The question feels more like seeking than something real. Okay, cool. Hans. Who else? Beth. Call me. Yes, Beth. Yes. Just put my headset in and give you a moment to prepare. Often people are behind, so... Hello? Hey, Beth, I can't hear you. Hey! Yeah, I can't hear you. I can see you. It's okay. I'll come back to you in a few minutes. You can practice and then I'll come back to you, okay? You can try. So I come back to you. Well, I hope it wasn't me. Yeah, no, I've got sound. Okay. Okay, this is from Nick. Is there such a thing as spiritual bypassing? Yes and no. Yes and no. Yes and no. Like most things in this life, it's not just one or the other, it's both. So no. So from the perspective of non-duality, no, it cannot be spiritual bypassing. That's a story. All there is this moment, right here, right now. Who is the one that's spiritually bypassing? And how would they do that? There is just this moment, right here, right now, right here, right now. So no, there is only this. Everything else is a dream. Everything, this is fresh and this is new, and it's a narrative. So from the non-dual perspective or the absolute perspective, no. 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 And from perspective of the narration of the person that seemingly goes in time, yes. That person can use spirituality to avoid all types of things in their life. To avoid socializing, to avoid painful things. And that's kind of like what the seeking separate person is it's always using narration and ideas to not experience pain. And so spiritual bypassing is kind of the same thing. It's like trying to use spirituality to avoid pain. Whereas pain is part of being in this world of opposites. And at the same time, it doesn't exist, pain. Thanks, Nick, for the question. Dennis, Lisa, Dennis, Lisa, Dennis, Lisa. He just put Lisa. Razim, hi Lisa, my question is, do we make choices in life? From the absolute, from the non-dual perspective, the question would be, who is the one that makes choices? So I would say no, because people believe that they have choice. But in me saying no, then you could take that as a new belief and believe that you don't have choice, which is also equally illusion. So in the end, it's not yes or no. It's who is the person that you believe has choices or not. And that's not something that I can answer. Who is the person that believes it has choices or not has choices? Who? Who are you? Choices arise, but it doesn't belong to anyone. So the appearance of choices, you go into the supermarket and then you've got Colgate versus Sensodyne toothpaste. And then there is an appearance of a choice. So there's an appearance of choice. But who is the one making the choice? Who is this one with free will, with volition, with separation from everything else? And who is the story that you're telling yourself in time of, I have choice, I'm going to a supermarket and buying this or that. In every moment there is just that moment which is without narrative. It's timeless. Narrative, words go into time. This moment is timeless. And that is all there is, baby. So from the human perspective, there is the appearance of choice. It appears that body makes choices. But from the non-dual perspective, who is the one that makes choices? Who does that? Who? Who are you? And narratives are just narratives. And in a different society, a different culture, a different perspective, that narrative might not even ever arise. The idea of choice. We make up these words and then we get stuck in it. There is just this moment, which is free. Yeah, baby. What is this one like? Yeah, baby, yeah. Austin Powers. Do you find me sexy? Is it that? I forget. I saw that the other day. Hi Lisa, my workplace feels a bit toxic, but I have PTSD and have stronger than normal reactions to people crossing my boundaries. How do I make the decision whether to stay when the environment is keeping my emotional thinking high? Hey Annette. Thank you for your question. I'm so sorry to hear that you have that the body, it's not really you. I mean, if you went to a therapist, they would most be really like tell you other things to help you heal from PTSD. So don't use this to help you heal from PTSD. I'm speaking more from non-duality. I do include the person a bit, but I'm predominantly trying to speak about non-duality. So I'm sorry to hear that your body has PTSD. You, who you truly are, doesn't have PTSD. Who you truly are is free in every moment. Always. The body has PTSD. Khaleesi, my dog, has PTSD. My body, to some extent, has trauma or little bits of PTSD, not really strong PTSD. But that's not you, and that's our biggest mistake in this life, is the idea that that belongs to a me that lives inside this body. Who you are is this timeless stillness of what is. And that's actually your freedom. We're always obsessing on the human level about time-based problems. And that is great for you to work out and to question. A lot of people wouldn't have the wisdom on the human level to question these types of things and to look what's best suited for your traumas. But from a non-dual perspective, it doesn't mean ignore that. I'm just trying to point more to the non-dual bit at the moment. That isn't who you are. Who you are is the still freedom. Even if the PTSD or the trauma comes up, there is this timelessness that never leaves, that's embracing everything, that is all things. All things. And this is the freedom. These dynamics and these situations are pleasure and pain to the body, and they're important. And that sounds like your person is becoming more healthy by recognizing these things. But today I'm pointing more to the non-duality. Your freedom is right here. Often we can get caught up in these and obsessively think about it and believe that that is the source of your unhappiness. Your source of your unhappiness is actually the attachment to that. It doesn't mean if you have a broken leg, you don't deal with the broken leg, you don't go to the hospital, you don't seek medical help. I'm not trying to bypass that, but today I'm just feeling to point to the non-dual part. Sorting that out won't bring you freedom. It will sort it out for a period, and then there'll be something else that arises. Your freedom is this moment right here. That which never leaves. And this absolute love, it embraces all. It embraces the trauma. It embraces the fear. It embraces the person. So with your work colleagues, if there's identification, there is a belief that I am the person with trauma and they are triggering the trauma. Whereas actually it's a dance of energies that's happening in you as this watching, as this emptiness, as this moment. So that dance is appearing in you, which is inherently free. Thanks, Annette, for your question. Sorry, I'm just going to come to you next, Beth. No, you don't need a headphone for it. If your headset's not working, then we can do it through your computer. But if it does echo, then we just have to move on. But a lot of the time, if one person has a headset, it's okay. But I just answered this question, otherwise I will forget I added them. So this is from Rikesh. Hey, Rikesh. Hi Lisa, thank you for taking the live questions and loving your work. I was wondering, what are signs of operating from the sense of separation, things like defensiveness and judgment, anything else? I guess I mean in regards to relating to people. It's not as simple as judgments, because judgments always happen in a way. So in a way, when you're questioning the sense of self, there has to be a questioning of all your judgments, and the end of attachment to your judgments, but the body needs to judge. Like, it needs to judge if this person's safe or not, if this person is doing something good or bad in order to move away. So the needs to be judgments, but what goes is the attachment to the person and to those judgments. So it's not quite as simple as does the defensiveness and judgments go. Sometimes defensiveness is needed. Maybe defensiveness, what you're talking about, is like big reactive ego stuff, but sometimes if someone is being inappropriate to you, then there's an appropriate defensive response. So say if somebody comes up to you and says, "Get out of my way, you effing C," then there could be an appropriate defensive response, or somebody's attacking, like screaming at your dog or something, or going to kick your dog. I can't think of good examples. But the suffering is the belief that the judgment and the defensiveness is a you that is experiencing through this body, that equals a you. Whereas these are things that are appearing in life, just like the breeze, the wall, the windows, the other person. They are something which appears in this watching. And to me, the shift is the movement back to that watching, which is no thing and everything. I just call it watching because that's how it's typically called. So it's a movement back to this moment that what is experiencing now is not a person. It's not personal experiencing. It is oneness. It is non-separation experiencing, which is all things. So there's this Neo-Advaita teacher. I'm not sure if Neo-Advaita is a rude name or not, but I'm not against Neo-Advaita. I like it. I remember asking him when I was seeking a question, or somebody else did, I can't remember exactly how it flowed. But somebody said to him, or I said to him, "Does blame still arise?" And he said, "Of course, blame still arises." And he went on to say something, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but basically he implied that, of course, blame still arises because what's the difference between this body and another body? So if two people are arguing in front of you, it's your blame in a way. Like, we take our dynamics as so personal. Like, we think this body is going to become enlightened and going to be without blame. And maybe blame is something that disappears. Like, maybe there is certainly hatred that disappears, and you could put that into like forms of blame. But it's in the person. But it's this idea that that waking up is personal. Waking up isn't personal. Yeah, the person changes because in the waking up there seems to be a great questioning of the person, the personal dynamics of who you are and what's happening, and really investigating the nature of reality, which is going to affect the person. But there isn't a person here to wake up. This is always the illusion, the belief that I am going to wake up. Who is this I that's going to wake up? Who is this I that's going to wake up? Who is this I that's going to drop defensiveness and drop judgment? Defensiveness and judgment is part of what is conditioned in the body. And yeah, that's most probably diminished a lot. But it's actually this, something else happens. That which is hidden in the background, the experiencer, comes forward. And the experiencer is no longer sort of intermeshed with the person. It comes forward and it is recognized so deeply and profoundly. There is this energy shift to be everywhere and all things. So that which is looking out of this body isn't Lisa. Lisa is an appearance that's coming and going, but it isn't the looker. The looker is everything. So you know when Vijay Krishnamurti says the subject, the object and the subject are one, the observer and the observed are one, that's because what is looking now is everything, which you could call consciousness, but that's a little bit too much description in a way. It's mystery. So what is looking out of your eyes now? It's not something that's going in time. The going in time is the film that's playing. It's something else which is looking. And that looking is all places. It's here right now. And there's this energy shift from being something that's small, that's running in time, to that bigness. And then that person still carries on playing, but there's no longer the sense that that person is the experiencer. And yes, that changes the person, but not in a particular enlightened way. There's still going to be issues in that person, because that's what it is to be a person. A person has issues, but that is not the experiencer. What is experiencing right now? No thing and all things. Stillness appearing as movement. Mystery. Absolute mystery. Not knowing. Yeah, baby. Thank you, Rikesh. I'll just try and call you, Beth, and then if it doesn't work, I'll read your question. Thanks for writing it out. Okay, I'll read out your question then. Oh gosh, I was just going to ask how the human perspective is to manage if you have a lot of identity around brain having ADD. I try and live in observation and being aware of the thoughts and the sensations. When I'm alone for a while, a lot of confusion arises and feeling of being lost and finding it very hard to focus and be distracted. Getting things completed can be very hard. I seem to believe that if that is all sorted, I will be a happy person. I know it's just a thought. I have thoughts that I am stuck in it all. Thanks, Jason. Yeah. I can imagine having ADD. I've always thought it was called ADHD, but ADD, I know what you mean. Attention Deficit Disorder, ADD, ADHD. Yeah, I'm not sure what the H is. I can imagine that's difficult. I can relate to it with my brain having the dyslexia, and it's not just dyslexia. There is obviously a bit more happening in here. Like as a child, I was diagnosed with dyslexia, but there was always on the edge. Okay, I'll just try and call again. Oh, well, I've read your question. It's okay. I'll just read it out. So I can relate to a brain not functioning in typical ways. And I have terrible forgetfulness, which I think got a slight similar feel, like I'm walking to do something, I've forgotten, so I walk back, and then I forget, and then I walk back. I do have, something a little bit fishy up there. So I relate to that. Most probably causes lots of pain in life and in your day-to-day experience and confusion. I do think there is natural remedies that could be done and practices that could be done that could help that. Like yoga practices, qigong, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. Like, I think you've done a lot of these things, but I do feel that could help with it and with the pain of it. So I do feel, and also there is obviously what the doctors recommend. I don't know how helpful that would be, but there is medication that you can take. It's hyperactivity, but women have inattentiveness. I see. Yeah, so I do think that there is paths that you could go down in the human level which would help with that. And I can imagine it creates a lot of pain. I can understand that, not being able to focus. Yeah. And really, you can do these therapies. I don't know what they would be, but I can imagine there would be these different therapies. But really, the freedom in which it's looked for is the freedom of that not being you, of coming home to who you truly are. That I don't think that will fix your brain, but it's the movement back to what you are, which is this stillness now, this expansiveness. I try and meditate. Doing anything regularly is challenging. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. And I really feel like it's this, I don't even know if meditation would necessarily be good for someone with ADD. Meditation doesn't suit everybody. But it's this surrender to what you are, this empty looking, this nothingness appearing as all things. This is your only freedom, and it's happening right now. So the brain is messy at the moment, maybe not at the moment, but the brain can be messy and sloppy and getting all confused. And there's something which isn't confused. There's something that is free. And then in that there is a thinking and feelings that are confused. And then it's like that, there's so much attention on it, it feels like that consciousness is contained in that messy thinking and in that confusion. But there is part of experience which isn't confused. And that is no thing as all things. It's not a thought, it's not an idea, it's the inherent sense of being. Like it's the birthright, like there's a waking up with that. And that is your true relief from the situation. That movement back to that. It doesn't mean it will fix the situation. That is something like having a broken leg that you have to work on in life. And I wonder if you've tried all these things like yoga and, I was going to say yogurt. Yoga, and I know you say doing these things regularly, but maybe going to a therapist that's specialised in these types of things. But with an alternative viewpoint on it, like acupuncture or something like that. But I can imagine ADD is very painful. But there is a part of you which isn't confused, right here, right now, that does not suffer that. And then the brain, the thoughts, and the person is confused. And that feels all messy. When there's identification with that, there is suffering, because that feels like that is who you are. So you are someone that's confused, you are someone that is lost, you are somebody that is stuck. But that isn't who you are. That is a play appearing in who you are. And who you are is deep rest, beyond any human rest. It's deep freedom. Yeah, nice. Beth says, thank you so much. I love you. I do feel the stillness. I love you too, Beth. Yeah. And even though we say it like I do feel the stillness, even in I do feel the stillness, there still might be some personal attachment to that stillness. Like who the you doesn't have anything to do with that stillness. Like the you can never know the stillness. The you is a movement in time. I'm sure it's just language that you say that, but for everybody, for other people, just this clarity that this is absolutely impersonal. It's not a thing and all things. That looking is happening everywhere and nowhere. It's not inside the body or outside the body. I try things and aim to stay well, eat well, and look after my body, mind. Yeah, that's good. But maybe somebody knows, like comment below if you know like alternative therapists that work with like ADHD or autism. I mean, these are large in society, and I don't hear very many alternative therapists working with that. So yeah, if anybody knows that, please put it in the comments below or in the chat. I would really appreciate that because I can share it on my website. Yeah. Or maybe a mixture between Western medicine and Eastern medicine, like alternative therapists and allopathic, or Western therapy and kind of like with a like a holistic perspective to it. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Beth. Blessings on these teachings, yeah. Rakesh, thank you so much for your answer. Exactly what I needed to hear in that moment. Ah, nice, Rakesh. Wonderful fairy. Hi, Lisa. For many years after I listened to duality, non-duality, I think you mean. For many years after I listened to duality, I started to deny everything because that was a pattern I had from childhood. It's very painful to embrace that we are nothing but also everything. I never really felt connected to people since childhood. How can I connect when there is no one here or in the other person? Yet I feel closed in and lonely. Also, one of my wishes in life was to have love with another person. I denied that for many years too because there is no one here and there are no others, and we should not depend on anything. Do you have any thoughts that can help me with this? Yeah, thank you, wonderful fairy. That is kind of fitting to the spiritual bypassing. Yeah, and the person takes everything for itself. So it does take this message and use it to defend itself and use it to stay small or to stay in its bubble. And that's great on the human level. You see that because that can be a relief and healing for the person to let go of that. But that doesn't diminish the message of non-duality. Like in this moment, there is nobody here and there's nobody there. I'm not saying on the human level, don't connect with people because there's nobody here or nobody there. That's what humans do. Like I have this wonderful connection with this hairy, four-legged friend. And there's absolutely nobody in her and nobody in me. And there is this beautiful connection. And I do so many things for her. And she does so many things for me too, even though I always give that she's giving attitude. She's actually fiercely defensive of our home and of me. She would always go to war for me. Yeah. Except a few times when I've been chased for animals and she just ran off and left me, but I think that's a pack thing to do. Like, she doesn't really understand I can't run fast like she can. But when we are trapped and there's nowhere to run to, she fights. Like over the home, or if somebody comes to me too quickly or something, she'll bark at them. Yeah. So that's not what's being talked about. Like on the human level, we do have these connections, and this is not, I'm not giving a prescription in any way for that. It's that right now, who is looking out of the eyes? Who? The mind is so obsessed with the story of the body. It does this, it does that, it defends, it doesn't do that, it closes down, it opens up. But who is looking out of the eyes? Who is sitting here now? Who is hearing my voice? Who is looking at me? Who feels the bum on the seat? And there is nobody doing any of that. There is not a person. The person is something in movement. The person is something we describe in time, but that's not the actual experiencer. Who is experiencing? And what's experiencing is absolute love. Love, 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 love. This no thing which is all things. And narrations about you and bypassing and not bypassing come and go and evolve the person. It's always great to evolve the person and evolve the person's conditioning. But who is experiencing all of that? There is this looking which is no place and all places simultaneously. It belongs to nothing and it's all things. And it's absolutely free. It's the birthright of everything. It's the same which is looking out of your enemy, out of your best friend, out of your dog, your lover. That same energy is looking everywhere. You can't escape it. You can't escape yourself as that. It is all things. Your worst nightmare and your best friend. It is what moves these bodies. It's what animates this life. And it's absolute mystery. You cannot find it in this life as a thing, but yet it is everywhere, right here. Like, ta-da! It hides in the most cunning place in everything. 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 It's here. Who is looking out the eyes? Who? Who let the dogs out? Who? Who? Who let the dogs out? Who? Who? Yes, thank you, wonderful fairy. Thank you, Lisa, most wonderful stream. Thanks, Ida. I think that's what you're doing. I can see a hand. Oh, is it this? That's what you're doing. It's in movement. Oh, sweet. It's a very nice picture of you, Ida. Yes, Amy. Hi, Lisa. I go through phases of dreaming that I'm dying. I usually wake up in a panic thinking that I haven't taken the necessary medications to keep me alive. I'm not actually on any medications or ill. I'm wondering if this could be more about my ego dying. Yeah, for sure. The dream could be something that you're picking up from past lives, like our DNA and genetics store memories from past experiences. But yeah, all fears of dying are dissolving into this because that's what death is. But the person is terrified of losing itself. It's terrified. It's like the drop of water being terrified of dropping back into the ocean because it disappears. But there's nothing actually that dies. So that drop of water, it's like falling down, it's terrified, but it's just going back into the well of itself. It just loses its that particular shape, but that's not actually who it is. Who it is the water. It's not actually the drop. It's just appearing as a drop. So yeah, it's ego, afraid, and it's often does come in dreams. It's beautiful that you're having that, because that fear and the love is right next to each other, because that love is the expansiveness of who you are. Yeah, thank you, Amy. Cassia, she says, call me. Yes, I would love to call you. One moment. Yes. Just give her a moment because we are behind. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey. Nice to hear from you, but you've changed your name, or is it the same name?
I think I just reset my Skype. Something happened with it and I had to reset it. So maybe it's just a different, I don't even know what comes up.
Yeah.
So I had to find you again. Anyway, thank you for calling.
Yeah, pleasure.
Lisa, I thought I'll ask you about something quite personal, and I know
Yeah.
it's also a sensitive topic, could be for a lot of people. But I feel kind of brave enough to ask you about it today.
Yeah, just before you do it,
Yes.
just become conscious of your trauma level, like not to push yourself over your trauma level and push yourself into trauma. Like, I don't want to, for this to be negative for anyone. And sometimes, when it's something very personal, we can go a bit too far and then it's a bit traumatizing for ourselves.
I understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
so just be conscious if you begin to get that wobbly trauma feeling in your body, and just tell me.
Thank you for
and
picking up on that, because
yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, good.
Yes. So I thought I'll ask you about something. I was trying to think what is the best phrasing, just to keep it, very succinct.
Yeah.
Basically, unplanned childlessness.
Unplanned.
Yeah, infertility, in other words.
All right.
So, long story short, just something I've been identifying with for many years, meaning this idea of becoming a mother. And I feel like I got to the point where the momentum is gone, because my energy, enthusiasm towards, trying, and all the strength towards it kind of diminished, and my priorities have changed. And I see that as a positive thing and an opening to maybe, learn something from it and open to other things. But at the same time, I feel like it was such a huge burden, in a way, being identified with that person who so wanted to become a mom. And it's a difficult thing to talk about. But at the same time, I feel like it really is bringing up so many opportunities for me, because I feel like I have no other choice but to move forward.
Yeah.
I want to move past it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
I feel like there's opportunities to explore life differently, and I just want to don't want to be identified with that anymore. Just want to enjoy my life and be free.
Yeah, it comes down to any belief that you have, except this one is more primal, but any belief that you have in your thoughts of something that will make you happy. So so if we went back to, this is very simplistic, but if we went back to Khaleesi, my dog, she hasn't got the ability to imagine whether she wants babies or not. Something that I really love actually about Khaleesi, if we just put it more simply, is that when I take her to hotels, which is quite often. I used to travel a lot, not so much anymore. And I travel by car, and we would stay in a hotel. And something that I found so impressive is that we'd arrive at the hotel. The routine was I'd put her bed down, I would put my stuff in, I would give her food, and then normally I'd either go down to the bar and eat, or if they had a spa, I would go and swim or go into the spa. And what impressed me was her ability to go into the room and be like, this is home now. Like, she had no idea that where she was. She didn't know, like, say she's in Paris, or that she's in Europe, or that I'm coming back or not coming back, because she doesn't have the ability to think. She just is that she goes in there and she's got my smell, which is like, that's how it works in dogs. Like, she's got my smell, so therefore it's home. But she doesn't know at all what is home. Like, she doesn't have any thoughts about that. So she's just like, the routine is I eat my dinner and then I go for a nap, and then Lisa comes back. But she doesn't even have the ability to think about it. She just does that. So she's in the middle of nowhere in absolute relaxation. She's in the middle of not knowing, and there's deep relaxation. So, like, I know this sounds a bit abstracted, like, why am I talking about this in relation to kids? But it's the same with, like, Khaleesi with babies. Like, Khaleesi's never going to have babies because I gave her that operation. So she can't have babies. But she doesn't have the ability to imagine having babies or not having babies. And that is part of our beauty and part of our great suffering as humans, is you have the ability to imagine having it and not having it. And then there is a you that can have it or not have it. And this is a difference that we have as opposed to animals, is that we can imagine what is not here. And this is tremendous suffering for us. It's also tremendous creativity. We can do amazing things through realizing what is not here. But it's illusory. It's illusory, this idea of what's not here. It's also illusory that you had any choice in the matter of having a child or not having a child.
Yeah.
But what great suffering that idea is the belief that you have a choice, and the belief that you could or have had a child, and that your life could have been different.
True. It's difficult, and it seems like I've done everything I could towards that, and I still failed. That's the gist, you know.
Yeah, and you absolutely didn't fail. You didn't fail at all. That's I'm sure gives you such a kick, the idea that you've tried everything and you failed. Like that.
And you know, and the energy that was put into it was like a long-term project that eventually, like everybody seems to say, it's going to pay off. But now I'm at the point where I just, for my own mental health, I feel like the right thing, and really feels right, to put it down. Just park it already and just enjoy my life the way it is, without imagining what it could be.
Yeah, definitely. That is the suffering. That doesn't mean that you have to necessarily park it, but it's that energy, I understand, that is attached to the idea of having a child in the future.
Yes.
Like this idea, and like that is complete suffering, that part. There is going to be the natural urge to have kids for most people. Like, that is a very natural urge. Like Khaleesi, given the opportunity, she would breed. Like, she would breed many times. I see her getting very into that idea.
Do you mind me asking, have you ever felt something similar?
To wanting kids?
Yes.
Not really. Not really. Maybe when I was a child, but that's nothing to do with spirituality at all. Like, that's nothing. So that was prior to me ever getting into this subject, that I was already quite convinced, you know, by the age of 17, 18, that I didn't want kids.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's like, so sometimes, you know, I have that broody feeling, you know, when you're holding somebody else's baby, or they're describing, you know, beautiful, there's like a bit of a broody feeling. And, you know, sometimes when you're making love as well, there's a broody feeling arising, you know, like,
yeah. Oh,
you know, not a broody feeling, but a feeling of like the body, you can feel the body wants to get pregnant. That's maybe a bit too intimate to share. I'm telling you about being careful. Going for it. Yeah,
No,
so
but this is where I would like to be at. Just not have it as a problem.
totally.
Yeah, I'm not really, I feel I'm at the point that I understand that it's not having a child that's causing me that will make me happy now. I'm not even sure if I want it anymore. It's just the attachment to this idea that was draining my energy for so long. And I didn't realize that there could be another way until, I basically crashed in some sort of way, because there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, totally. And it's I can imagine that that's a massive attachment for many women.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying in any way don't do it. Like, I'm not saying not having kids is the right way or having kids is the wrong way. In any way, it's just a massive attachment and identification, most probably for women and maybe a lot of men, but maybe more for women. This idea of being a mother. And I can imagine it's painful that didn't manifest, but it's not your happiness.
No.
It's never going to be your happiness. Your happiness is always this moment, is always what's happening, is always this consciousness which is experiencing itself. That is not your freedom. It's such terrible suffering when we hold on to anything that we believe is in freedom in time. Because all of us experience, things that we would like to happen, and then life gives what it gives. And maybe sometimes that you can say there's blocks in ourself and you can undo blocks and then things come. But even what is the self and what is the world, that's even irrelevant. All of us, including myself, experience situations which you would prefer not to happen. I would prefer there not to be another lockdown coming in Europe, but I think there's another lockdown coming. I'm sure a lot of people would, but it's not our happiness. If that's what happens, it's total surrender to what's happening, but just nobody's surrender. This is your freedom, this absolute conviction, but nobody's conviction, this deep knowing that it's always this moment. It's always the sounds, the sights, the feelings of what's happening.
Yes, whatever we do, we always have to go back to that.
Yeah.
We want freedom, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's always, no matter where we run to, that's all we ever have. If you run to the moon or the other side of the planet or whatever you try to do or hide in your bed, it's always this moment, what we're left with. Not objects, not things, not people, not emotions, not sensations. It's this moment.
Absolutely. And whatever the desires are, or, the ventures, the things that we want, there's always, whatever it is we all have different ideas and different attachments.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. That is very intimate. I really appreciate it. And you did it a very nice way, not going too much, because I'm sure there is still trauma in there from that.
I think there is, but I feel like I am on the other side of it in a way.
Yeah.
I'm kind of closing the door behind me.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
It really feels good.
Yeah.
And I think that it's given me a different perspective, which I obviously very much needed.
Yeah.
Because that's all we have.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. It's exciting in a way.
Yeah, it's absolute infinite possibilities. That's all we've ever wanted, is the infinite possibilities. Remember as a kid when you look at the tree and it's just wonder. Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
And just being in that dark mood about it, just felt it's not me. I don't want to be that person, but it did feel so constricted, even to the point where I would be dreading, for example, meeting a friend who's pregnant, that kind of thing. And I just felt so, I don't want to be like that. It's just not me, Whereas now I feel more at ease with those kind of situations, but it took a lot of work. So I feel like it gave me a gift. This whole thing gave me a gift in a way, because it's my way of finding myself,
Totally.
Through the trauma, unfortunately. But that's the human experience, I guess.
Yeah, it is always. That's part of the Buddha's teaching, is that you can only really know this once you've really suffered, because like the theory is like prior to suffering, you always believe that there's something in life that will free you. But when you've really suffered, you really begin to perceive, like when you really know suffering, that life will never give you freedom. Like you really begin to understand the flow and ebb of life, that, you know, you can have this beautiful dream, or you could have a child and then the child dies. You know, that's like life. There's nothing you can hold on to in this life.
That's right. And there's this little bit of funny feeling, like, could it be that simple? Could it be just that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, really? Oh, duh. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and everything
Yeah.
you do.
Oh,
I love listening to you. And I really felt like today, you know, I could brave myself and ask this question.
yeah.
And thanks for answering.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for asking. I really appreciate it. Really beautiful. Yeah.
Love you, Lisa.
Love you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks again. Bye.
Bye. Okay, that's enough for today. Thank you so much for everyone that's participated and asked a question, and yeah, just been here and shared, even if you're just sitting silently watching. Yeah, I appreciate being with you all. Pardon me. Yeah, and I wish you everything, absolutely everything. I really do. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.